don't care if it's a DC movie. I love cameos.
Not now, Stanley!
Excelsior!
I never fully cared for Marvel Comics growing up. I mean, I grew up in the house of DC, and I love DC. I love DC because they have gods. You know, I always tell people that Marvel has people with powers, whereas DC had gods. And Thor is, we could talk about the fact that Thor is a god, but still isn't in a real sense. My imagination drew towards the characters in DC. And honestly, if I wanted to know what it was like to be a 14, 15-year-old nerd with money issues, I could just, you know, look in the mirror. Never got bitten by a radioactive spider, though. So, you know, there is that. I did get, you know, a jet sting once, but no superpowers. That being said, I loved watching like the old reruns of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Full disclosure, I used to pretend to be Iceman because, you know, that whole I used to pretend to be Iceman. And of course, you know, there's the 90s Spider-Man series and the X-Men cartoons. But with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, from time to time, Stans would narrate like part of it. You know, you would hear Stan's voice in the background. Listen, true believers. You know, there's something about Stan, you know. But for all intents and purposes, that was as far as my Marvel experience would go. Plus, you know, growing up, we didn't really have like extra comic book money. So, you know, whatever. I will say, though, that despite my wandering feelings about the pulp, particularly, the people behind Marvel always got my respect. And then as I learned more and more about their sacrifices and their stories, they got my love. I love Stanley. I mean, Stanley has been in comics forever. I think Kirby, funny enough, was in comics longer than him. I think when Timely Comics was around, that's what Marvel used to be called before it was Marvel. Kirby was an artist in Timely Comics, and Stan got his break as like a copy boy, you know, writing like one or two little panels. They would just throw him a thing, and he moved up. So Kirby was there first, obviously. But yeah, Stan has been around in comics forever. And yes, we know, you know, that Stan didn't do it all alone. We get that. We get that. In the end, they both were creators, you know what I mean? And you have to honor that. You have to honor all of them. You can't just pick one and not the other. You have to honor them. You have to respect their sacrifice. You have to respect what they did. For me, Stan Lee was an idea. You know, he's not just a pen, but he's like the whole damn idea. It's Stan, I think it was, who, you know, he might have been the editor of Marvel Comics at the time, but it was Stan and his creative team who told the Comics Code to, you know, basically shove it. You know, they're going to do the stories that they want, and, you know, they're going to publish it without the Comic Code sticker, because that's another conversation. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant and subversive and rebellious and winning. You know, Stan is the idea of, screw it, I'm going to give everything I have and see where it goes. You know, the legend goes, well, he himself has talked about it quite a few times, but the story goes that, you know, he was ready to give up on comics. He had been in it for a while, and, you know, comics had become like this, oh, you work in comics? Oh. You know, people were turning down their nose in it, and he still wanted to write, you know, the classic great American novel, which is why he used his name Stan Lee for the comics, as opposed to his actual name, which is Stanley. And he was like, I think I'm done. I'm an adult. I have a wife. I have to deal with this. And Joan, the story goes, Joan was the one who told him, okay, if you're going to leave comics, write the book that you want to write. Just do it. And he did. And that's how Fantastic Four came out, you know. Just, he was that guy. He was just like, just do things. I have this idea, let's see where it goes, that kind of vibe. Give your all, write your story, do things, Like the idea that Magneto and Charles were basically Malcolm and MLK Jr., that's brilliant. And I love that. Stan's gone, but the idea of what was created all those years back then, even with all the different iterations of the storyline and, Peter Parker sells his soul to Mephisto and all that kind of stuff, all that thing that happened later on, it was at the beginning, with Ditko and Kirby and Lee that made comics and, by extension, Marvel as an entity what it is. Stan to me was also like the last great link to the originals. And I'm going to pronounce the names wrong, so forgive me, but we don't have like Schuster and Siegel, and Kirby's not here anymore, nor is Ditko, Marston is not here, but we had Stan, like he was there when the whole empire was being built, Superman was on Action Comics side, Captain America was, on Timely Comics side. He saw this, he was there to witness all of these things unfold. And yes, we have a great deal of good people left, Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane and Alan Moore and Grant Morrison and Quesada and Jeff Loeb and George Perez and Jeff Johns and Rob Liefeld. They're all great, and they all got their inspiration, Jim Lee as an artist, as a storyteller, they all got their inspiration from on high. I was thinking about this morning, seeing him in Fantastic Four. Stanley is giving Reed Richards meal. Stan Lee is giving Reed Richards his meal. You got to kind of really love and look forward to the cameos. I wonder what Stan's going to be doing now, but think about that, like back when the cameos first started. Now I was chuckling to myself at the idea that Stan was in the first Captain America. He had a cameo in the first Captain America, and then he had a cameo in Winter Soldier. And the first one is set in 1940s, and he's a general. I thought he would be taller. And Winter Soldier, when he's like, a security guard, and he's like, I am so fired for this. Before I go, I just want to say this. Yes, we know that Stanley was old. Yes, we know he was in his 90s. Logically, you don't expect him to live forever. But when people impacted your life and they exit, whether it is someone who was very physically close to you or not, it hurts. It hurts, and it leaves a scar, and it leaves a space. Michael Jackson died, and George Michael died, and Carrie Fisher. Carrie. That still hurts. There are times where, I'm listening to a piece of Star Wars music, or, watching some of the old stuff, or Last Jedi, or Force Awakens, and you just see Carrie, and it dawns on you, Carrie. So I appreciate some of you saying, Stanley was old, and he's in a better place now, and he doesn't have to deal with people, and that kind of stuff. And I know that he's with Joan now, and that's a good thing. But we're just going to take the time and mourn and remember and laugh and enjoy who Stan was. Because Stan made you believe. And, he's gone. And it hurts. And it'll probably hurt for a while. Like I said, he's with Madam Web now. So that's a good thing. Stan was important, and we take the time to understand how important he was. He wasn't just some comic book guy. He was a whole thinker. No matter what house you belong to, whether you're a DC or a Image or a whatever, or Deep Cut Marvel, Timely Comics, let's just take the time and just remember Stan. You know, Excelsior, dude. Excelsior.
Hey, fellas. Hey, wait, where are you going? Hey, you were supposed to be my lift home. How will I get out of here? Hey, gee, I've got so many more stories to tell. Guys. Oh, gee.